Ever heard the phrase, all warfare is based on deception? Chances are you have. But do you know the man behind it? The mastermind who, over 2,500 years ago, penned the most legendary guide to strategy ever written. Today, we're diving deep into the life and legend of Sun Tzu, the enigmatic author of The Art of War. Who was this guy? Really? Well, that's the first mystery. Historians debate whether Sun Tzu was one man, a group of strategists, or even a complete fabrication. The most popular account comes from the historian Sima Qian, writing centuries after Sun Tzu's time. He paints a picture of a man named Sun Tzu, who lived during what is known as the spring and autumn period of ancient China, chaotic era of constant conflict between rival states. According to Sima Qian, Sun Tzu wasn't just a theorist scribbling on bamboo scrolls. He was a man of action. The story goes that the king of Wu, King Hilu, heard about Sun Tzu's brilliant military mind and summoned him for an audience. The king, skeptical, said, "I've read your 13 chapters. Can you put them to the test? Maybe with ... a small drill." Sun Tzu, ever confident, replied, The king, wanting to push him, asked, "Can you do it with women?" Again, Sun Tzu simply said, "I can." So, the king brought out 180 of his court concubines. Sun Tzu divided them into 2 companies and appointed the kings his 2 favorite concubines. As the company commanders, he gave them halberds, explained the drills right, left about false end, repeated the command several times. Then, he gave the order to turn right. What happened? The women just burst out laughing. Sun Tzu remained calm. He said, "If the commands are not clear and the orders not understood, it is the general's fault." He explained the drills again, even more clearly this time. Then he gave the order to turn left, and again, the concubines just giggled. This time, Sun Tzu's expression changed. If the commands are clear, but the soldiers still do not obey, it is the fault of the officers. He ordered the 2 company commanders, the king's favorite concubines, The king, watching from his pavilion, was horrified. He sent a message. "I am now quite satisfied with your ability to handle troops, but without these 2 women, my food and drink will lose their savor. Please, spare them." Sun Tzu's response was legendary. He replied, "I have already received my commission as general. When a general is in the field, there are some commands of the sovereign he does not accept." And he had the 2 women executed as an example. He then appointed the next 2 in line as the new commanders. When he gave the orders this time, the women performed the drills with perfect precision, not making a single sound. Sun Tzu then turned to the king and said, "The troops are now well drilled. Your Majesty may send them through fire and water." The king, though shaken, was deeply impressed. He had seen firsthand that Sun Tzu wasn't just a talker. He was a leader who understood that discipline is the backbone of any successful army. He appointed Sun Tzu as his general, and under his command, the state of Wu won many decisive victories. This story, whether true or not, perfectly captures the essence of Sun Tzu's philosophy. It's not about brute force. It's about control, discipline, and psychological advantage. And that brings us to the core of his masterpiece, The Art of War. This book isn't just a military manual. It's a profound work of philosophy that has influenced leaders in warfare, business, sports, and even everyday life for centuries. What makes it so timeless? It's because Sun Tzu's principles are universal. Let's look at some of his most famous teachings. One of the big ones is, the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Think about that. The best victory is the one you win before the battle even begins. This could be through diplomacy, through intimidation, or through clever maneuvering that makes the enemy's position hopeless. He taught that the costs of actual conflict in lives, resources, and morale are so high that it should always be the last resort. Another key concept is the importance of knowing yourself and knowing your enemy. Sun Tzu wrote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle." This is pure strategic genius. It's about intelligence, preparation, and assessment. Before you do anything, you must understand your own strengths and weaknesses, and you must gather as much information as possible about your opponent. What are their weaknesses? What are their habits? What do they expect you to do? By understanding these things, you can exploit their vulnerabilities and avoid their strengths. And this is where deception comes in. Sun Tzu was the absolute master of playing mind games. He famously said, "When able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near." It's all about creating illusions to mislead your opponent. You feign weakness to draw them into a trap. You create diversions to make them look the wrong way while you strike where they least expect it. You use spies and misinformation to sow confusion and doubt in their ranks. One classic example is the empty fort strategy, often attributed to a later strategist, Zhu Liang, but it's pure Sun Tzu in spirit. Facing an overwhelming enemy force with too few troops, Zhu Liang simply opened the city gates, sat atop the wall, and played his lute calmly. The enemy general, suspecting a trap, became paranoid and retreated. He was defeated by his own mind. Sun Tzu also emphasized the importance of adaptability. He compared a successful army to water. Just as water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows, the soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. There is no one-size-fits-all strategy. You have to be flexible to adapt to the changing circumstances of the battlefield. If your plan isn't working, you don't stubbornly stick to it. You change Italiano. You find a new way. He also had a lot to say about leadership. A good general, according to Sun Tzu, is not a tyrant, but is wise, sincere, benevolent, brave, and strict. He leads by example and cares for his soldiers as if they were his own children. This builds loyalty and morale, making the army a cohesive and unstoppable force. He understood that a motivated army that trusts its leader will fight with 10 times the strength of an army that is fearful or resentful. So, how did this ancient text survive and become so influential? For centuries, the art of war was a closely guarded secret, studied by emperors and generals in East Asia. It wasn't until the late 18th century that it was translated into French by a Jesuit missionary, and from there, it slowly spread to the Western world. Napoleon is said to have been an avid student. In the 20th century, military leaders, from Mao Zedong to General Douglas MacArthur and General Norman Schwarzkopf, have used its principles, but its influence extends far beyond the battlefield. In the 1980s, the art of war became a sensation in the corporate world. Business executives started seeing the marketplace as a battlefield. They used Sun Tzu's strategies for competitive analysis, market positioning, and negotiation tactics. The idea of subduing the enemy without fighting became about winning market share without engaging in a costly price war. Knowing your enemy became about understanding your competitors' products, strategies, and weaknesses. The book became a staple in business schools and boardrooms around the globe. Even in sports, coaches use Sun Tzu's principles to outwit their opponents. A football coach might use deceptive place a fake punt, for example, to catch the other team off guard. A chess grandmaster uses psychological pressure and subtle moves to force their opponent into a mistake. So, while the image of Sun Tzu calmly ordering the execution of concubines might be a dramatic legend, the power of his ideas is very real. He taught the world that victory isn't just about having the bigger army or the better weapons. It's about being smarter, more disciplined, and more adaptable than your opponent. It's about winning the psychological war before the physical one ever starts. The man himself may remain shrouded in mystery, a figure lost to the mists of time. But his words, captured in the art of war, are as sharp and relevant today as they were 2.5 millennia ago. Sun Tzu's legacy isn't just a collection of tactics. It's a timeless guide to strategy, a way of thinking that can help you navigate the conflicts in your own life, whether they're on the battlefield, in the boardroom, or anywhere else. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the mind of a master strategist interesting, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most fascinating figures. Let us know in the comments which principle from the art of war you find most powerful. See you next time.